other thing, screenshot that instead. Either way, we're here.
No, it's good.
Either way, we're here. All right. All right then. We are here for real. Yeah. So okay, the stream is out. All right. But Kaihatsu, would you like to introduce yourself properly and not? Hopefully, the stream doesn't go to shit like last time.
Again, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm Kaihatsu. Usually I say I'm a video maker, independent scholar, and type designer based in Japan, in Osaka. Type design is my main job, but yeah, I make YouTube videos about culture and games, which is something that I studied during my game design degree at university, and then I also did type design in games, which is how I ended up being a type designer in Japan. But yeah, I travel up to Hokkaido a lot. I do that with the Japan Society of Scotland, especially in Nibutani, which has a historic connection with Scotland, and we do I do sort of a grassroots cultural diplomacy, building connections between Scottish and Ainu people, and building on the connections that are there, because there was a Scotsman who used to live in the village a long time ago. And yeah, I've also recently been writing for a journal about Ainu culture, so I do a lot of stuff to do with Ainu culture and games specifically, because obviously a lot of people in YouTube and other places have done a lot of things to do with Wajin culture, Yamato Japanese culture in games, and I can see that in English-speaking places there's a lot of interest in Ainu culture, especially because of recent pieces of media like Golden Kamuy, but there's often not as much information in English, and that's something I wanted to I wanted to bridge that gap and bring more into English for people. So, yeah, that's it really.
Apparently you're echoing.
I am.
Let me.
In English, and that's something I wanted to.
No, you were just you were just echoing because I was echoing you. I think that's why. No, yeah, okay, we're good. He said, yeah, no. All right. So let's start, and I lowered your volume a tiny bit because it sounded a little loud. All right, and also we are doing the world quests. There's Archon quests, which are like the main story you have to complete. There's story quests, which is a quest centered around a specific character, and then there's world quests, which usually center around NPCs, and they are not voiced outside. If we have time for the Mikawa festival, that will be voiced, and that will be in Chinese. But for the just combat voice lines, because there is a current strike happening, even though it's getting a little finicky, I'm just gonna keep with it and keep on using Chinese audio. So that's only because I don't have room on my Dell for it for Japanese. I'm just Chinese voice acting is just something that's more novel to me. So I just felt like supporting that over Japanese, even though, yeah, usually probably the Japanese delivery is a little better. It's just, but yeah, I know you're probably fluent in Japanese, so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna hear some But I just wanted to briefly show you this, like there's a new little area before we get into this. Because there's a new character that's a Baku, if you've heard of what a Baku is. But they're a therapist as well. I don't think we're gonna see her. We'll see her associates. But there's one of her associates. There's another Baku. They are not tapers. There's little baby Baku. But there's just one little detail that I appreciate as a psychoanalyst. A Zen garden. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen plenty of those around in Japan.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you know yeah? But if you've thought about are there any Zen gardens in bathhouses?
Not that I've seen.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's just a nice little detail, because I'm wondering, have you asked people about because Lady Virgilia, who talks about Persona, in a specific video talked about how Japanese people and just collectivist people in general. This is a very different topic. I just wanted your take on this, and then we'll start with the Ainu stuff. Are a lot more averse to therapy, from what I know. Is that? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, see, when it comes to Japan, the therapy situation here is, I don't want to say non-existent, but there isn't very much of it. I mean, talking about therapy, the brief time I went to speak to a therapist, I did it online with a practitioner back in the UK, because the field's much more developed. It was partly I couldn't find anyone that I think would have specific to me that I would have been helpful. Because there is, I mean, in Osaka, this is the second biggest city in Japan, there are therapists around, but not really. It's not really that developed. It's much more general, and it wasn't particularly specific. And also just, I mean, part of it was just, even though I can speak Japanese, I didn't feel like speaking in Japanese to a therapist. But it's just, yeah, I think if you have something more specific that you want to drill down into with a therapist, good luck. Good luck doing it here. You're not gonna find anyone, really. Not that I could see. When you look up therapy, I mean, they just say therapy in Japanese, the English word, which sort of shows you already it's a bit of a foreign concept. But there's more. I found a lot of places that were sort of called themselves therapists, but it was more of like if you need to see a psychiatrist, like if you need meds, they call that a therapist. They don't really just do like, oh, if you just want to speak to someone about something. That's not really as much of a thing here. I mean, I suppose if you I live very close to a place called Tennoji in Osaka, and it's just a big row of Buddhist temples. I suppose if I really needed spiritual guidance, I could go and speak to a monk. You know, and I've thought about doing Buddhist retreats in Japan. The problem is that they're very popular with gaijin tourists, and they get booked up, especially recently with the quote-unquote over-tourism in Japan. So that was a bit difficult to organize, but, you know, yeah, it's definitely... I can't speak about places like Korea or China, which people also call collectivists. I mean, they sort of stem from the same sort of Confucian culture. But certainly in Japan, I would say that therapy is definitely underdeveloped compared to Europe.
That's why, I mean, I'm very interested, very knowledgeable in psychoanalysis, so there's actually a nice, I think, even though, it definitely is not, therapy itself is not as developed, it definitely, a specific aspect of it is, that I know many people probably don't know about, but it's a little bit stronger in Japan, especially in China, is actually psychoanalysis, specifically Carl Jung's, and there's a kind of therapy that works well with Japanese people, with collectivist people, which is called Hakoniwa, or sand play therapy. And when I originally streamed this, and I saw this
video about Hakoniwa once.
Yeah, you've heard about Hakoniwa?
Yeah. I made a video about Hakoniwa once and how it relates to Captain Toad, other Mario. I mean, from a level design perspective, it's just it's a little diorama. Traditional Japanese diorama.
Oh, interesting. I should watch that thing. I remember seeing that you did a Captain Toad video.
Yeah, well, that's what it's about. It was Hakoniwa and other things, like it talks about bonsai, and the Chinese practices that came from.
Well, yeah. So I mean, Hakoniwa is very good for Jungian therapy, where it gets these children who have no ego to sort of express themselves, especially ones affected by earthquakes. Like, Hayao Kawai's son, Toshio Kawai, did a lot of work with, I think, the 2011 or 2010 earthquake survivors, and did, sandplay therapy on them. But just a little detail that I thought was good, and already, to me, seems like night and day how much the detail they put into Japan, these Chinese developers putting into Japan, versus what they did with the other indigenous cultures. So if we have, but I mean, yeah, I guess overall, what do you about this? It's supposed to be end. This is supposed to be end of the Edo period, basically. It's basically the end of the story of Inazuma. We're basically in the perpetual Bakumatsu now, where we're open to the West, but the Shogun hasn't stepped down because she's actually a god. She's actually god, not just calling herself, she is actually a god. So there's that. I don't think they're ever going to go into the Meiji era, probably for the best. But yeah, I guess from the design of the buildings, what do you make of it before we start getting into Hokkaido?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I mean, when it comes to, actually, first of all, I just want to say in the chat, someone said I was echoing again, so you might want to check that I'm not echoing.
Interesting. Let me see what's going on. What happened? Let's see what happens if maybe I'm doing too much by doing application audio. Let's speak and see if it still picks up your voice. Maybe I went too far. Let me see.
Okay, I'll continue talking.
Let's see what happens if I maybe. Well, okay, now I'm hearing now I'm gonna be echoing.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I'm just gonna make your audio a little lower, and maybe it won't echo. Like 40.
Okay,
I don't.
How does it sound?
Ask people how it sounds. Just let them so I don't echo because yeah, I'm not playing because I'm playing the stream on my Mac. So when I play the stream, people can hear it. People can hear the echo.
Okay, well I'll just continue with what you asked me then.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the buildings here. I mean, I just want to say, when it comes to Ainu culture and Wajin culture, I'm not as familiar with a lot of different aspects or the particularities of Wajin culture.
Yeah.
Because that's not.
That's Gaijin Guma's perspective, obviously.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he would probably be able to offer some more insight into this. I mean, to me, I don't think it looks particularly accurate to. I mean, these are quite big buildings. I don't like some of them. They look quite ornate. I don't know how common that would. Probably, I mean, for a more building that belonged to the emperor or something, maybe something more ornate. Most people in the Edo period just lived in sort of smaller houses. But yeah, it's once we get to the Hokkaido bit, I will be able to offer much more insight.
Again, in the Hokkaido bit, it's going to be likely a very barren island with no people in it. So
That tends to be how it gets. I can comment on that later, but yeah, that tends to be how a lot of people depict it. I mean, see, when it comes to things like when Ghost of Yote was announced, I had a lot of people asking me about the various particularities of the Wajin depiction, and I just had to say to people on Twitter, look, I can't comment on that really because I'm not as familiar, but when there are Ainu elements or Ainuic elements, Ainu derived elements, I will be able to comment.
All right,
on
then
that,
let us start
history of Hokkaido.
Let us start the quest then. Well, okay, I taught to the Russian robot. Yes, there are Russian robots here. Russian robot maid specifically. But we are going to start to Sumida. So again, this is not voice. I don't know if you are... Well, actually, I'll just do the voice acting because, I mean, one, I don't know your skills as an actor, and two, it's because of the lag. I shall just voice everyone. Oh, she's a... hello there. Might you be illustrious Cyber? The illustrious, you say? And Paimon's the illustrious... And Paimon's the illustrious Paimon! Alright then. So tell me, have you ever obtained the mightiest sword in the village? Yeah, didn't we get that sword from Kaya that one time? That does sound very strong. Maybe even a bit too deliberate still. Have you led a life surrounded by beautiful men and ladies? Well then, did you defeat a giant dragon not long after your story began? Or perhaps did you get wrapped in some crisis upon which the survival of the nation hung? Okay, let's continue. Long after your story began. Or are you perhaps, in fact, a travel from another world? I mean, I am a travel from another world, sure. But I can't. Okay. Let's just continue. Let's skip this. Yeah, this is. Yeah, I'm interesting. Again, I was interested. This quest is called Through the Mist, so I believe this is the right quest. Okay. Here we go. You're there? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, let's read this line first and see. Why the hell this is starting with an author, and if there's anything to comment on that.
I mean, I already have a comment about the mist, but...
Well, you have a comment... Yeah, you've told me about the mists before over DMs, but yeah. And you're saying the mists are not offensive. You say mist is just mist.
Well, no. The mist. I mean, the mist is Hokkaido is known for being very foggy, especially the eastern section of Hokkaido. Very renowned for its fog. It made it very difficult to travel, especially in boats around the island.
Yeah, and I can tell you before you do the quest. Yeah, there is a boat you can go on, so I had to frickin' boat all around the island to get to this boss because there's a character that I could use to level up. And the boss is too hard, so I haven't beat it once. But if you have to, we'll see if you have to fight that boss throughout this quest. I feel like we probably will, but either way, my name. Okay, let's voice. My name's Sumida. It's from Videogame. I haven't finished thinking about it yet. I've got plans to take this novel as such. I need a reliable to help me make a trip to Tsurumi. Okay, so this girl is gonna. This woman, I don't want to say the B word. I mean, I can, but this woman is going to be the Wajin. According to the thumbnail, there's I guess going to be other Wajin characters that are going to show up in this. Obviously, there are going to be no Ainu characters, but I guess interesting to comment about how these characters view the island. Obviously, how I guess all these characters, even our white saviors here, view the island.
I mean, Genshin is kind of known for whitewashing its character designs anyway, so.
Yes. But okay, why? And so I'm guessing. I guess, do you know anything about why? It's clearly why an author specifically would want to go. I mean, it seems there's a pretty clear reason, but I guess why you think they decided without knowing what's going on, because I don't know what goes on in this quest. I mean, why they decide to go with an author as the first person that you talk to regarding this quest.
I mean, you have a lot of people that traveled up to Hokkaido because it was seen as a sort of foreign land, and you had a lot of people that went up to sort of explore and to write about it. I mean, one of the most famous examples would be explorer Matsuda Takeshiro, or Takeshiro Matsuda if you're going to do it the English way. Surname is Matsuda. And he was a very famous explorer that went up to Hokkaido and...
Is he still if he is echoing? Then I'm gonna try to turn off his application audio and see if that works. Guy, is he still echoing? Wait, aren't you able to? Yeah. Is he still echoing? Okay, we'll continue talking, and if you're still echoing, then I'll.
Matsuda Takeshiro was a very but now he's a very, very well-known explorer. But he traveled up to Hokkaido a couple times, and he documented the whole island. He wrote a lot about Ainu culture, did a lot of drawings. When he came back and published some books, he actually was trying to advocate for a better treatment of the Ainu. And when he wrote about what he saw up in Hokkaido, actually, I don't know if it would be the first example, but certainly one of the first examples of the government in Japan censoring a book, and it was not allowed to be published because they did not want people to know about the abuses that were going on up in Hokkaido, which at the time was not.
This was Meiji. This was the Meiji era.
It was 18. It was just before. It was.
He
traveled. It was the Bakumatsu period. He traveled in at the Edo period, but he was still around when the Meiji period happened, and he witnessed the transition. Receiving a lot more Western influence. He was actually the man who named Hokkaido. Hokkaido. Oh. It was his idea.
Oh wow, interesting. But this guy. Yeah, I mean, again, it's still very interesting. Again, that on at least the Wajin perspective on the historical, it's probably the most, at least on the Wajin side, most historically accurate region. Honestly, even more historically accurate than what they do with China, especially because they make China this giant place of commerce when that's BS. For Imperial China was not, according to a friend of mine from Chinese. Said,
I mean, who developed Genshin? I thought it was a Chinese studio.
It is a Chinese studio. Hoyo, yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, that probably explains why they had a little bit of bias there when it came to depicting China.
All the money in this game comes from the Chinese region. Like the currency is made in the Chinese region. So it kind of feels like just orientalizing or ancient, making an ancient version of what China is now today, just setting it in ancient. Here, this is a very specific time in Japan. It is the we're basically towards the end of the Bakumatsu period. Obviously, no end in the site of the Meiji period, but We're basically in the first the Bakufu, and then the Bakufu ends, and now we're in the Bakumatsu period. So it's like, yeah, this is actually around that exact time when Takeshiro basically went. So actually very close to that, at least time-wise. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. That's right. Now, the name of my novel is currently The Chronicles of the Sea of Fog. The broad strokes of its plot are as such. Nameless young man and his ventures in a nation shrouded by perpetual fog. Well, then the plot details are currently still in the works, but my eventual goal is to write an epic novel that can move hearts and souls, like Kino's Travels. Yep, it's the very same name, same Kino's Travels, in which an outlander named Kino, who doesn't quite fit in anywhere, strides across many strange lands. She meets all sorts of people, and she's drawn into all kinds of wicked plots and all manner of cruel wars. Each one of her adventures shall someday coalesce into shining gold. Sounds like exactly what we're doing in this game. Payback isn't quite the other, but it doesn't sound like she's talking about you. But it Alright, sorry I got off topic. Actually, I've been reflecting on that okay. Where is she? Okay. At the time, I wanted to use the legend of the Kitsune Saigu, ushering people into underground halls of Araumi to save them from disaster. Okay, well, let's just get to the Tsurumi part. So please go to Tsurumi Island and find a way to bring Maushiro. Oh. Maushiro. Maushiro. This is a traditional instrument of the civilization native to the island, which has been lost for several millennia now. Well, that's nice to hear that they've been gone for a while. Very, very interesting.
No, that reminds me of what was written in Legends Arceus. It's the same kind of...
What, about the Celestic people?
Yeah, there's just this idea of a lost civilization, and oh, well, there's no one here. Because they've all disappeared. Which is not true.
At all, there's still Ainu people here today. But again... You told me I'm doing this quest right now, and I'm bringing you along on for the ride because you said it's actually better than what they did in Legends Arceus, at least on the actual.
But yeah, there's certain reasons for that. I'll get onto it once you finish the dialogue.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Sound of the Trisham Maushiro recording in folktales. So please, I want you to describe it as I need a real Maushiro. She was a... Cool. Writing is more... Okay. Cool. Yes, she just... Of course, she wants to extort the culture's... she wants to extort the culture... by winning this contest. But okay, cool. Okay, what did you want to get into? Okay, so we're gonna talk to Kama. I'm guessing Kama is in Tsurumi Island. Tsurumi. I'm guessing it's Tsurumi. No, Kama is not in Tsurumi. Kama is right in near. I'm guessing we're going on a boat probably to Tsurumi Island. But what did you want to say?
Well, just I mean, I said before it's better than Legends Arceus, but that's
it's a low. I put in my YouTube post that's a low bar.
Yeah, it is a low bar. The slight difference is that I mean, for one thing, there's Ainu words in this game.
Maushiro, I don't think is Ainu though.
No, but there's other ones. I mean, full disclosure, I've not actually played Genshin Impact because it's not the kind of thing that I'm interested in. But I've looked a lot into the game for other things that I've been working on. There's at one point there's a snippet of an oral tale that's in Genshin, and I think personally, the fact that there's at least, because the issue with Legends Arceus is that there was no outward sort of Ainu culture at all. So Genshin, I will at least say they get a point for the Ainu words. That's something. And Legends Arceus did not have that.
And the tail? And you're saying there's a tail?
Yeah. Although I don't know if they actually got permission. I think they actually might have lifted that from a YouTube video. I don't know if they got permission to do that, which is another matter entirely.
That's another matter entirely. Yeah, I'm guessing similar issues with the Native Americans here about not allowing to do that. So.
I think it might have actually been a video from the National Ainu Museum. I'm not sure. But yeah.
All right, we're gonna. I guess we will just skip through this dialogue until it's actually. I'll voice stuff that's relevant to that's actually interesting to make this quicker. Um. All right, I guess we're going on to.
Where is the Tsurumi Island? It looks really sad. What's with the huge fog?
Sumida mentioned this as well.
Kama, do you know, where is he again?
Kino's travels. Yes, Lady Sumida has mentioned it before.
No, what? Kama said with the Maushi something. That's Sumida. Kama, do you know where she started looking?
If he knew, Sumida wouldn't need our help.
This time I'd have to do everything yourself.
Great. All right. Here we go. All right, here we go. Travel to Sur.
It's striking how they've made this area.
Please go on.
So
Please go on. Yeah.
I don't know. It looks like I don't know. It's interesting that they made it look so sinister in a way with the fog. I mean, if you read a lot of the old records about Hokkaido, the way that Wajin wrote about Hokkaido, they made it seem like it was a very terrifying land.
Sort of sounds like the great unknown in a sense. I mean, itself,
I
it
have
was
a-
the
I have a-
frontier, right? I guess we don't.
No, the interesting thing, I mean, you had, since the roughly about the 12th, 13th century, there was a small, very small Wajin presence on the southern tip of the Oshima Peninsula in Hokkaido, but it wasn't seen as Japan, even though the Matsumai clan controlled that area. It wasn't seen as Japan, but it was seen as a foreign land, but it was sometimes viewed, the Wajinchi, the Wajin land, was viewed as a sort of weird liminal in-between. But it wasn't Japan, but it wasn't necessarily completely foreign either. It occupied a weird space. But yeah, when it comes to there's a quote from Onzoshi Shimawatari about Hokkaido, which was I think it was from a play in the late 17th century, so Edo period. And it was, this so-called Ezo Island is located more than 1,000 li away. A li is just a unit of distance. Whoever is born on this island possesses an immense natural power. The hair grows upward and the light of the eyes is like the golden morning sun. So there was these very terrifying descriptions of the inhabitants in the island. It was made to seem very distant and scary, and, I think that probably plays into this image of this far-off land. I mean, the Japanese called it Ezochi originally, which just means... Well, Ezo is an old word for a barbarian. It evolved from the word emishi, which was used to describe the people living in the north of Honshu that were not... they did not align themselves with the Yamato court. Some of them were probably ethnically Wajin, they just didn't... But some of them were also probably other ethnicities. We don't know because it didn't really write anything down, so a lot of it's guesswork based on archaeological finds and what have you. But that name stuck. They gradually pushed the Ezo people north, and then eventually it just came to mean Hokkaido and the Ainu. And then Kita Ezo was Sakhalin. And initially Kita Ezo was Hokkaido, but obviously as the Wajin conquered more and more of Honshu, the sort of definitions of the space.
So the Ainu people also existed in the north of Honshu?
Yeah, I mean, a long time ago you had the Emishi, and who are the Emishi exactly? Probably related to today's Ainu in some way. They were not, I mean, calling them Ainu is not quite correct because, ethnicities evolve over time. We don't know how much of the culture they shared. They probably shared a language that was related to Ainu but is now extinct. But there were also Ainu people living in the north of Honshu when Ainu culture became more recognizable. If you look at place names in the north of Honshu, you have a lot of names that end with Nai and Betsu, and these are both words that come from night and pet in Ainu, which mean river. Especially Nai. Nai is a very old word for river in Ainu. So you can tell any sort of word, place name that ends with nai probably came from an Ainu name, because you don't find that in Wajin toponyms. So you can chart how far down Ainu presence was. It goes, there's a lot of research going into other Ainu place names elsewhere in Japan, but there's a lot of work that probably shows there was a significant Emishi presence down to about, I mean, you could draw a line between roughly the Tokyo Bay and the Noto Peninsula. The more mountainous areas of Japan, lower than that, there was more of a Yayoi presence, because the climate was more acceptable to people that migrated from the continent. But yeah, I mean, in the Kanto area, now it's Tokyo, but initially that was Emishi land. And there's some names like Musashi, I believe there's some theories that came from an Ainu place name initially.
Oh wow, Musashi? Wow.
Yeah, something like Munsashiri or something.
Munsashiri.
I mean, mun is Ainu for like a dirt or ground. Shiri means like a land or an island. Depends on the context. I don't know. Yeah, so something like that, I believe. That could have been linguist Alex Vovan. He did rest in peace. But when he was around, he did a lot of research into Ainu place names in Japan. The other one was the Noto Peninsula. I think he said, I believed it came from Notu, or Not, which is the Ainu word for headland. You know, like a peninsula, a bit of land that sticks out. That's in Ishikawa Prefecture. Which is about, I want to say, 2 hours maybe away from Osaka. At most, you get the rapid phase. But yeah, I mean, and even I've read things about a theorized Ainu place name in Osaka. I think there was a Buddhist temple that took its name from what used to be the name of the neighborhood, and there were some people saying that the neighborhood initially, the name was from an Ainu place name, but I don't know how verifiable that is, and I can't remember what the actual place name was.
Interesting.
But yeah, certainly Aomori, Akita, Iwate prefectures, there's still a lot of Ainuic influence. I mean, in the dialects as well. Some of the words in the Japanese dialect we know come from Ainu. And especially in Aomori, there's Ainu things like clothing as well that were made there, because we know that there were Ainu villages there, and we have records of Ainu people from there. They sort of were fully assimilated in around the 17th century. Because they were viewed differently from the Ainu people in Hokkaido, because they were viewed as Japanese subjects. Initially, the Ainu in Hokkaido weren't. They were viewed as proper Japanese subjects. I mean, they spoke Ainu for a long time, but in public settings, they mostly communicated in Japanese. Ainu was a sort of home language. And at that point, they lived in Wajin dwellings, and they practiced a lot more Wajin culture. And they were more indistinguishable from their Wajin neighbors, because obviously there was more intermixing, but they also shaved, and they took up Japanese grooming and bathing.
In a sense, it's sort of like, again, I asked you this during the Legends thing, but it's sort of like how China was a lot more ethnically diverse, and then it basically just went all to Han.
Yeah, basically there was a lot of. I mean, there's this quote. I cannot remember what book it's from. I think it actually might have been a book about samurai. I'm not sure, but the author wrote, because a lot of Japanese culture is just Tang Dynasty culture with extra steps. If you remove, and for a while this, especially when you had Imperial Japan, a lot of people wanted to remove foreign influence. But if you took away all the foreign influence in Japanese culture from China, Korea, wherever else, and you wanted, quote unquote, just native Japanese culture, you would be left with Emishi culture.
Ainu
because
culture.
It's believed that.
Yeah.
It's believed the Emishi people influenced a lot of early thought in Japan regarding ancient Shinto or Koshinto, ancient Shinto practices, and other things like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of influence. It's hard to say because the two groups, Ainu and Yamato, have been in such cultural contact that there's a lot of crossover. You have kami in Japanese.
Kami and
which are
Kamui,
Ainu.
yeah.
Kamui. But we don't really know which language influenced which, or if they both sort of came about at the same time, because there's no way to tell
Interesting.
really who came up with it first. But that
So-
does show some kind of connection.
Here we go. We have some names that do words that do indeed look Oina, Moshiri. Those
Yeah,
do
Moshiri means
land.
Well,
land, right?
yeah, well, Moshiri.
Moshiri specifically. Moshiri
Yeah,
specifically.
it gets Moshiri is just this happens a lot. It's a transliteration of Japanese because in Japan, aside from all of the syllables they end in a vowel. So when they transcribed Ainu words, Moshiri became Moshiri, and now you have a lot of people that say Moshiri when that's not really technically the correct word. It's Moshiri.
But it's at least a lot better than they just picked random ass Japanese
yeah,
word.
Moshiri means, but I mean, yeah. Yes, but to be fair, they've kind of, instead of picking random Japanese words, they've picked random Ainu words, because Moshiri means land. So I don't know why they've called Moshiri ceremonial. Yeah, it's a little bit sort of... Oina is a kind of epic, I believe.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know why they've picked that name for a beach specifically.
Alright. But still better than Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
Low bar, but better than Legends Arceus.
And you have Mount Kanna. Kanna means like above.
So that works. I mean, it's very, very, still very basic, but works.
Is it above? No, that's. Oh no. Yeah. It is above. Sorry, I'm thinking of another word. But yeah, Kanna Moshiri means like an upper area.
It's interesting. You know, okay. It's like the bog hasn't dissipated, but we can now walk. And then there's this kid. There's a kid over there. Kids run off onto deserted islands to play when they've got time on hands. Just tell them to get to safety. So he asked us to get to in the meantime. But still, I've been trying to. This looks like it's just straight out of Stonehenge, or unless this actually is this accurate at all? I don't think so. Or is it this stone?
I mean, no. Apparently, back when the Emishi were around, they built stone monuments, stone circles. I don't think it was anything like this. I mean, a lot of those were dismantled though because people took the rocks to build other things. But no, there was no building of stone.
Yeah,
monuments.
not.
Sacred sites were usually just. I mean, there are in Hokkaido stone circles which were built by the Jomon people, from which
The Jomon people, exactly. Yeah.
But they were just little stone circles. They weren't big henges or anything. There's nothing. I mean, anywhere in Japan, there's nothing of that scale.
Oh.
Like I said, apparently Emishi did have other sort of stone structures, or at least that's what I've heard, what I've read. I don't know what kind of stone structures, but no, Ainu sacred sites, and Ainu would build things out of wood, like houses.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I mean, from Golden Kamuy, yeah.
Special territories of land, yeah, certain tracts of land, but there wasn't anything generally built. Nothing big.
All right, let's see my kid voice. Yikes! Oh, I didn't mean to scare you. You're an Outlander! And you've got a little floaty girl with you, too! That's awesome! I haven't seen any Outlanders in so long! But I'm a little girl. Okay. My name's Ru. If you pronounce it, I guess it's Ru. Remind this kid is... Okay, yes. Cool. Oh my! Oh, we got a boy lolly. Let's go. Okay, at least boy lollies exist too. But okay, several thousand. Got it. Then is this man? I wonder if he's supposed to be Ainu. Thunder, of course, just like everyone counts it. What?
Oh, it's just a minute. It's me say Tsurumi Island City has vanished for 7 minutes. That's why County is so.
It's probably because they can't see the sun or moon due to the giant fog.
Still.
You get exactly. Today's the day of our big ceremony. Kapatchir. Kapatchir. That sounds Ainu. And there's no I.
Kapachiri is a word. It's a word for the Owashi, the stellar sea eagle.
Stellar sea eagle. Interesting. We'll definitely be pleased to have new and rare guests taking part. Who's that? My good friend. So let's see if they actually deliver on this thing as a bird. So there'll be a ceremony?
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Everyone tells me I'll be the star of the show this time too. But we'll need to do some things before the ceremony can start. Either way, probably might come with me. Go to the destination, talk to Uru. Well, okay, yeah, his name is not Ainu, but we'll see what's going on with this. Hey, I can at least finally traverse this. So these characters are actually supposed to be. Let's see. Ippei. Oh, fuck! Yeah, I gotta beat up these people. Unless I wait long enough. No, let's just kick some. Let's just kick some ass. Let's just kick some ass. But I guess any. I guess as we. Yeah, Ippei. What about Ippei? Is that?
Makiri. Oh yeah, Ippei is Makiri. Makiri is a knife. Ippei means to drink.
In Ainu or Japanese?
Oh, no. That's no. It means to.
So these characters are supposed to be actually. So I guess it's wrong. There are characters. Yeah, no. So there are Ainu, quote unquote, possibly Ainu characters in this cut.
Ippei. You say Ippei ano means to, let's see. Ippei means to. Or you can say. I think A as well.
Alright, I think I beat.
Ippei means, or Ippei means I eat.
But
there's no tense on it.
That's Japanese, right? Uru is Japanese, right? That's not Ainu. Alright. Wait,
they've given them Ainu names at least.
But what about the boy? Isn't that is that an Ainu name? I thought that's Japanese. Hello, can you hear me? Kaihatsu, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was just wondering. You weren't responding to me. I was asking, is that a Japanese? Is that Japanese? I thought Ru is.
No, I mean.
I thought Ru is Japanese.
Well, I mean, it's a. I mean, it could mean several things because it's just one syllable.
Give it slack. All right, but Makiri and Ippei, those are Ainu names.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're
Ainu words.
They're nouns.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. You wouldn't call someone Makiri. You wouldn't call someone Ippei.
Still, but more or less offensive, giving them Ainu noun names versus not giving names at all. Versus Ottoman and what is it? What was the other one? Yeah, versus Ottoman. Versus Ottoman. And Volo.
It's difficult.
It's worse. Way worse than a Sherpa. It's obviously both are worse than a Sherpa, but.
I mean, when it comes to, I mean, I'm not Ainu. I mean, for my journal article, which I wrote about Legends Arceus, and I spoke to a couple different Ainu people about a few different Ainu people about different influences in media. People have different opinions, so I think whether or not this would be a point of contention would vary between people. I mean, personally, from my perspective, Makiri isn't so bad. Ippei, I don't think that's a good name. I mean, well, it's Ippei's. Well, I said nouns before. Makiri is a noun. Ippei is a verb.
Yeah, that's why.
As, you know, but I mean, well, it's both a verb and a noun. You know, there's a lot of Ainu words like that. But Ippei, I mean, to eat. I wouldn't. You know,
his name means to eat. Okay, yeah, and that's actually now that itself vaguely sounds offensive. But either way, let's continue. Let me introduce you to my big sister Makiri and big brother Ippei. The perch seems to be in a good state. This year's ceremony should go well. Oh, come on, less talking, more offering. After all, the perch is the keystone to the ceremony. This is the tree upon which the great Thunderbird once descended. Is that, obviously that's a thing in Native American culture. Is it a thing in Ainu culture?
Well, you have, Hamnakamui, who is the god of thunder.
Okay.
But I don't think it's specifically a bird.
All right, we're starting to get some Legends Arceus-isms going in with replacing Ainu stuff with Native American stuff. Got it.
I mean, this happens a lot because a lot of people who are not familiar with Ainu culture, like they did this in Legends Arceus. There were
Plenty,
Native American elements.
Yeah.
And the reason to that is because they wanted a signal, I believe, to Western audiences their indigeneity, and probably to a lot of Japanese people as well, because a lot of Japanese people don't know really anything about Ainu culture, and so to try and make at least in Legends Arceus, to make the dynamic more explicit, they would use
TPs,
Native
right?
American elements because that's more familiar to a lot of people. Even in Japan, I mean, there's a what do they call it? Something like the American Indian Friendship Association. A lot of Japanese people are interested in Native American culture, and it's very strange to see that, but there's no Japanese Ainu Friendship Association or anything.
Yeah. It's true.
Because obviously you have a lot of Japanese people that either have a vague idea that there's Ainu people in Hokkaido, or you have people that some people. I don't think as much now because there's certainly more awareness, but certainly before you would get people that are like, well, there's no Ainu left. You know, that goes away to the way that people write about these lost, quote unquote, lost civilizations, because you had this image that, especially in the Meiji period, there was an image that the Ainu were disappearing. And that was the reason you had a lot of researchers go, because they were like, we have to preserve this culture because it's disappearing. They're disappearing, so we have to sort of preserve in stone this sort of idea of the Ainu before they disappear. And that was a common trend amongst the Western researchers as well that wrote that, and obviously that sort of percolated down to Japanese society, these ideas. And now you have. This is kind of one of the reasons you have a lot of people that have a lot of denial of Ainu indigeneity. I mean, a lot of the ultra-nationalist groups, some of whom came after me on Twitter once.
Of course.
That's a whole story. I was their target of the week once. That was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and they will say that, well, there aren't any Ainu, there aren't any indigenous people in Japan anymore, or they'll say, well, the Jomon are the indigenous people because the Ainu came later and chased them out, which you know, you get similar things like people talking about Maori people in New Zealand, but then you also get people saying, well, you know, they were completely assimilated, and now people that do it now are just LARPing, or they're just cosplaying. There was a famous case with parliamentarian Mio Sugita, who is an LDP member. Actually, I can't remember if she got booted out or not, but she wrote on her blog about there was an Ainu delegation that went to the United Nations, and they dressed in traditional Ainu clothing because there was other. I think it was a panel on indigenous women, maybe. I think there was a Korean woman there dressed in Korean clothing, but she basically just called them something to the effect of cosplaying grandmas, and she was taken to court for that. The Sapporo. I think it was the Sapporo Human Rights Tribunal found her guilty, and she had to retract the statement and I think pay some kind of damages. Although, despite that, she still. I'm sure she did make some sort of retraction, but she still vehemently denies that she made any discriminatory comments, and she hasn't changed her tune at all. She's basically quadrupled down on her beliefs. She's very right wing and very very right wing. I don't think it's fair to paint all people of that political persuasion, but she's very not quite ultra nationalist, but she concerns herself a lot with minority groups and specifically Ainu people and Zainichi Koreans and LGBT people, and how she's the only one that monitors them because she has to keep an eye on all of this quote unquote subversion.
Yeah, now I'm starting to realize that this might not actually be quote unquote better than what they did with Natsulan. I think it's better because now we do see them, but I guess I'll take them just being dressed like Japanese people over weird ass cowboy elements and modern clothing that they do with Natsulan. So it's a kind of a wash, but I mean they very much Genshin use a lot of indigenous words. They just use them so wish-washy and like just all over the place.
Well, that seems to be the case.
It's here too, so honestly, maybe not actually better. It just quote unquote.
No, I mean, yeah, it's kind of it's its own. It approaches things slightly differently to Legends Arceus, but
I mean, again, the fact that it's made in China means that it's less quote unquote political to do this, even though obviously Golden Kamuy exists.
Yeah,
but
of course.
But yeah, I guess this is where all the Native American references went to, because we got some Native American names and we got Kachina, but I didn't see anything about Native American really figures, so I guess they went all to Tsurumi Island. So we can drink and see if there's more Native American things to show. I'm not supposed to be drinking right now because I'm still recovering from pneumonia, but. Grandpa Mata said, okay, Mata, is that a Japanese or Ainu name? Let's play a game. Is this a Japanese or is it an Ainu name?
Which one was it again?
Mata, M-A-T-A.
Mata. Well, I mean, that's a Japanese word. I mean, Mata can mean, like, again.
Oh, all right, so it's a Japanese name. Got it.
I mean, it could be...
We should let's.
Mata. There's the Matagi. Matagi is they're a group of hunters in northern Japan, traditional hunters.
The Matagi, yes.
The Ainu and Emishi.
Are the Matagi or Matagi? I'll pronounce your pronunciation.
I mean, they have their own language that has a lot of Ainu derived words because they probably share.
Yeah, there's a character in Golden Kamuy who's a Matagi. Matagi. So.
I mean, Mata. Oh no, Mata. What is it? Winter. It can mean winter in Ainu.
Yay! So, but I guess the thing is that the languages have connections. So it's like it's not as obviously they're still different enough as you can end a word without a vowel. In either way, let's maybe just
in Ainu, yeah.
Yeah. I know. It said that this year's ceremony leaves a bad taste in my mouth. The fact that I'm the only one doing work over here makes it worse. Well, you want to... Okay. So what is this? I guess the perch is that... I guess if that's referring to... Wait, no, the perch is referring to the Thunderbird, not to Kapatkier. Unless Kapatkier is the Thunderbird, we'll see. It would be something interesting. It would probably make it a little better, at least if it was referred to with an Ainu name. But to the top of the perch, to offerings to. I mean, do they worship Kapatkier like as a Kamui?
I mean, you have a lot of. I mean, in Ainu spiritual tradition, you have different animals that have. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of Kamui is that they come to the human. Kamui are like people. They look like people, but when they come to the human realm,
yes,
they disguise themselves as animals. and things like the bear, a Kiun Kamui, is a gift. So they disguise themselves to bring this.
Wait. Good thing we have this now. Wait. Removing all foreign elements from the perch. Interesting. The power of the great thunderbird will accumulate within the perch, and it will carry foreign substances that infiltrates in the form of feathers. Does this feel Ainu at all?
No. But, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I mean, you talk about removing foreign elements. There was a push. You had several revolts. I mean, in the 1660-something, roughly, you had the Ainu chief Shakushain who tried to remove the foreign Wajin influence from...
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But it also feels like infiltrates... yeah, it also kind of just feels like just Shinto in general of like foreign as in just like forget the word impure. Yeah, just everything that's just that's from Shinto. I don't know if that's also a thing in Ainu, the impure.
I mean, Shintoism. Shinto concerns itself with ritualism and purity. It's a very ritualistic religion. It's not a legalistic religion in the way that, you know, Judaism or Catholicism or Islam is.
Yeah.
Ainu. People talk about Ainu religion as a sort of related to Koshinto. Ainu. It's animism. People talk about animism and shamanism in relation to Ainu spiritual tradition. There's still a divergence. I wouldn't say, at least in my experience, taking part in Ainu rituals, that there is as much of a concern with purity as there is in Shinto rituals. But there's still a very structured way that things happen.
Especially Iomante, right? That's very, very structured.
The most famous of the Ainu ceremonies, of course, the Iomante.
Yeah. For the fog will purify. Yep, here we go. Purify. Yeah, more and more of this foreignness is less about about keeping the culture, and more about just Shinto.
Yeah, I think the cases with a lot of you have it here, you have it in Legends Arceus, you have a lot of games and media that features Ainu culture will have a lot of Wajin elements mixed in, and a lot of the time, well, nowadays, because with the whole cultural assimilation that occurred, Ainu people today will also practice a lot of Wajin traditions as well. And I think people sometimes just... I think maybe part of it is that people can't find enough material to work with, so they're like, well, we'll put Japanese stuff in here too.
And apparently Native American stuff too, because they didn't feel like picking... we could talk about the owl god, we could talk about the... Chipak?
Chikap Kamui.
Chikap Kamui. It could have been just Chikap Kamui. Like, why have to be Thunderbirds? Talk about Chikap. Or, yeah, okay. Scattered feathers and bring them back to the perch. Oh, I see.
Maybe they decided to try something different. I mean, I know the Google Doodle Olympics game that they made featured Okinawan, Wajin, and Ainu culture, and the Ainu bit, they had an owl character that was based on, I think it was 2 different Ainu tales.
So this quest is now about finding feathers, isn't anything about feathers related? They like animals, so I'm sure feathers have to have some significance to some degree. Or is this just completely foreign to Ainu stuff, and now we're just...
No, I mean, I'm trying to...
wait, feathers. That also sounds Native American, because Native Americans dress themselves, are the ones that dress themselves with... Oh, God.
Yeah,
Oh, no. This just feels like the Native American quest that they just realized. This feels like more respectful to Native American people, which I'm sure they'd be pissed off too. That it's being featured in Ainu thing.
I mean, when it comes to feathers, I don't think there was any Ainu clothing that featured feathers in the way that you'd have Native American headdresses.
Yeah.
But, I mean, various parts of animals were valued for their use, and nothing really went to waste.
But feathers themselves didn't have spiritual value, like used in rituals. You're saying?
I mean, possibly. I'm
Obviously, yeah.
Not to my knowledge, but there could be. I mean, things like skulls of animals have significance in rituals.
Yeah, especially isn't the thing because in like Golden Kamuy, the skull of I think it's of a fox or of a dog is used by this shaman for.
I've seen. I mean, bears usually is the most common, but Iomante has also been performed with foxes. I've seen that. Or it can be any animal. I mean, you have a difference between what's the Iomante and Hopunire, or Kamui Hopunire, which is when you send back an animal. But that's more so for an animal that's hunted, whereas...
well, wait. Oh, here's Kapachir. Okay, so do we know what... So it would be better if Kapachir at least was the Thunderbird. I don't know, it would make it just slightly better if... Come on.
I'm pretty sure it is.
If you help make offerings to the perch, I'm sure Kapachir would be happy. That would at least make life better. Alright. But Kapachir itself is not... again, any animal can be a kamui.
I mean, there is a Kapachir Kamui. I'm sure there is. It's mentioned in a couple oral tales of the Kapachir Kamui, which is the eagle god.
But it doesn't have thunder powers. It doesn't have thunder powers.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, Kanna Kamui is the thunder god. I mean, I believe there is a sort of dragon serpent thing in Ainu tales called a Hoyao, which I think sometimes is depicted as having some connection to thunder or lightning, but that's a whole other thing.
All right. Well, let's. And obviously I don't. Probably one thing at least. One thing I think Natlan is gonna have a better thing on than Tsurumi Island. Well, so far this is actually not feeling as I think the main thing is just that there are no Ainu like playable characters. I think that is just the main thing. This just gets slack for is that they didn't actually is that yeah, it just seems it's better than Legends Arceus, but that doesn't mean that it's better than Natsulan necessarily, because they used we got words, but now we got word salad already by using Native American stuff with. Oh, it's right here. Okay, touch the. Oh wait, this is the perch. This looks fairy-like. Interesting. I mean, I guess a partial reason. I mean, Inazuma is the region of thunder, but that further. Yeah, this is the like each of the nations is related to a region. So, they could. Okay. If I have to defend their reasoning, if I have to be a Tsurumi Island apologist, then I'd say okay, they wanted to. They knew that the Ainu worship animals, so they didn't. So they instead of they maybe knew about Kana or this god, but they were like no, they wanted to be an animal, and they're like oh, we see this Kapachir guy, and we want to use him, but we'll call him the Thunderbird. That is, it's not a great defense, but that is the most I can give for a devil's argument. What is it? Devil's advocate argument for why they use the word Thunderbird. But then they just start putting Shintoisms in here. So I did what I could, but making off. Okay, let's make it.
I mean,
not bad. It's not a good argument, but it's not a good argument still.
Oh, it's interesting you talk about the worship of animals, because I think this is a point to talk about. I don't know if you would necessarily call it worship, but in...
Yeah, it's not... It's reverence. It's reverence, not worship.
it's more like showing a sort of respect because
And reciprocity as well, right? I mean, that's what the main.
It's more it's reciprocal.
Yeah, it's reciprocal.
Not necessarily a worship because you have Kamui, who can die. They're not all powerful in the way that the Abrahamic god would be.
Yeah.
And you have to you show them respect and they will show you respect back. But also it goes the other way. It's
Clearly have to find these feathers.
Kamui, you show them respect. You talk with them, if you need help, or you can argue with them if you're not happy with the way something is. You can tell them off. You can argue with them. They say spirits you can argue with. It's much more of a level playing field because, like I said, there's the idea of you have the Kamui Moshiri, the land of the Kamui, and you have Ainu Moshiri, the land of the humans.
Yes.
And you have this back and forth, so.
There's okay. I guess even anything that, they went for the rainforest elements. I guess the sort of the fairy-like element. They went hardcore. I mean, they had some fairy-like elements, obviously in Fontaine, like the modern European region, which I mean makes sense, fairy tales and stuff. But they went hardcore as well in Sumeru. Sumeru, it's not Japanese. But I'm guessing this is a new item. This is a new obtainable item. I guess harvestable item. Fluorescent fungus. Is that a thing that you could find in Hokkaido? Fluorescent fungi.
No, I don't think there's any glow-in-the-dark mushrooms up there.
So I guess now they're trying to just add fairy-like elements to it, which.
I mean, there seems to be a lot of sort of quote-unquote fairy forest elements here. That's more just sort of fantasy.
It kind of feels like Tir na Nog. So I know you're Scottish, not Irish, but it's still giving me like Tir na Nog vibes.
Well, I mean, I have half of my family is from Ireland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ireland and Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah, this is giving me Tir na Nog vibes. So.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm not very familiar with a lot of Celtic, like Gaelic. I tried to learn Gaelic once, Scottish Gaelic, not Irish Gaelic. But it never stuck. It's.
I started looking into it because there's a prequel, Bayonetta prequel where they go kind of hard on the Irish Celtic imagery. Well, not hard on it, but still pretty cool in its depiction.
I mean, I've seen some people drawing comparisons between Ainu patterns and Celtic patterns because obviously there's a lot of sort of weaving and interlinked abstract patterns, and maybe they came about in a similar fashion, although they are still very distinct from each other.
Yeah. Just trying to find these feathers. So I actually got to do. It's where I gotta actually play the game. So, but I guess anything about the actual, landscape. Now that we haven't seen too much of this island.
It looks very desolate, and it reminds
outside of the. Okay, fine. Well, let's keep with the desolate. Yeah, let's keep with the desolate theme. But then also, I guess the actual structures. I mean, the actual.
Yeah, I mean a lot of it reminds me of how some of the pre-release screenshots from Ghost of Yote show. The land is very empty and desolate because, again, it's the sort of conceptual idea of Terra Nullius. It's, no one's here.
Here we go. This should be the last feather. Should be the last feather.
I mean, Hokkaido is split in half by a mountain range, so, I mean, the sort of rocky mountainous areas. I've certainly driven through areas of Hokkaido where it's just very, very high cliffs and mountains with nothing but trees.
But... Okay, we're making.
I don't get why there's so many bare-looking. I mean, I get they have sort of glowing blue tips, but some of these trees look very bare.
I guess, yeah, and what about? I guess how central to? Well, I don't think even electricity is necessarily super central to Japan either. I mean, it's just Raijin is a cool god, so they felt like, okay, we'll do Raiden, and we'll make Raiden and. It was also to put the character from Honkai Impact 3rd Raiden and find a way to put her in this game, so they made that a god. But okay, let's continue. But yeah, is thunder have a significance to Ainu? I mean, I guess everything has a significance because it's a nature religion. But
well, I mean, if you talk about natural events, obviously people would interpret them as signals from Kamui, and if you had a violent storm or an earthquake, or a volcanic eruption, people would take those as signs, perhaps that a Kamui was not happy, or there was something, and people would, in lots of other cultures around the world, people would interpret natural events as certain signals from gods, and would conduct rituals appropriately as a response, or, I don't think it would be necessarily any.
Yeah, but it still feels like the fact that they're still trying to make sort of a unification of, oh, this whole region is about thunder. It's about thunder, so it feels like in a way that the Thunder Archon does have, even though it feels like it's foreign, that the Thunder Archon has jurisdiction over this, which already still feels like.
I mean, if you're
it just feels very racist already. Like that. I mean, I guess not necessarily, because again, you could say that because it's still the link between Ainu and Japanese side, that to make this work, they're going to try to make thunder important for both in that way, and that doesn't necessarily mean just therefore the right of the Inazumans to have over Tsurumi. But I guess what your thoughts?
I mean, presumably, I'm guessing. I mean, if you talk about the Japanese region in this game, which is also, I believe, to do with thunder.
I'm telling you, the Japanese region is about Inazuma means thunder, right?
Yeah. I think probably what happened is they probably saw things about Daijin in Raijin culture.
They saw Raijin. Well, I'm asking you, but about why they did it for why they're trying to unify it. Rather, obviously, it's about Raijin. They made Raijin because of Raijin, obviously. But what about for the Ainu specifically? I guess how offensive is that they're trying to unify this region to being about thunder as well, this specific island?
I mean, in a way, I suppose you could interpret it in the same way that historically Japan tried to assert its position over Hokkaido as an integral part of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was, culturally, the way that people were assimilated. And I mean, you talk about, for example, the other half of, you go on a tangent, Okinawa, which shares a lot of Japonic elements because the Ryukyuan languages are in the Japonic language family. There's a lot of Japonic aspects of the culture. But when Okinawa was assimilated, obviously that was brought under the Japanese umbrella, and all of a sudden, these aren't languages. They're just dialects of Japanese, which is a policy that the government still continues to this day, calls them dialects, even though they are independent languages. And to this day, it's only the Ainu that are recognized as an indigenous people with their own language. No such accommodation for any of the Ryukyuan people in Okinawa.
Oh my god! Wow.
But in the same way that you have this sort of assertion over another culture that it's just a dialect, or it's just this sort of country bumpkin version of the proper Hondo mainland culture. And a lot of people would view the Ainu as a lot of people back then did sort of view, there was a lot of questions about Ainu as a predecessor or related to Japan. As people, you have all this rhetoric about primitive races, and relations to Jomon culture. Obviously, a lot of people saw similarities between Japanese and Ainu culture, but the way it was sort of designated was that it was a sort of primitive, unadvanced.
All right. Now back again, back to the devil's advocate of what Hoyo might say is they might affirm it, or say, okay, no, it's not saying that they only worship the Thunderbird. It's just this is just what you're doing right now, or that there's at least these similarities between the cultures, that pervades, and therefore that's why we're doing thunder for here as well. Is that convincing, or can this get a little bit more slack? That the fact that this first part of this quest is having to deal with the region, with the element of the region, as a whole, of the Honshu region, or
I mean, they probably just found a way to sort of smush both of them together, I mean, this happens a lot. I mean, it's this sort of mixing of different influences, and this happens a lot in games. You have different cultural elements, especially when you have a fantasy setting. You're not necessarily going to have one specific culture and only that culture. There's a sort of gradient. You talk about things like Ghost of Yote, or I mean, there's a lot of controversy about Assassin's Creed at the moment, but
a lot,
Assassin's
yeah,
Creed
a
normally-
lot. Including the new one, you can literally just break shrines, which something you can do at every assassin. That's a big one, right?
Yeah, that is not great. Personally, I mean, as someone, I would call myself a Shinto practitioner. Wouldn't call myself a Shintoist because there is no ism. But I have a home shrine, and later today I'll probably go and pray at a Shinto shrine like I do every week.
Nice.
But it's not. I'm not very. Some people are very incensed by it, and obviously ethnically Japanese or Yamato people have. A lot of people that are not happy with it. I'm not particularly fond of that. Although I also recognize, as someone who plays video games, that a lot of games often do feature destructible items and terrain and items that you can move around. Although it is a little bit of a surprise. I think maybe they should have gone down the route of having it there and just not being able to touch it. You could have very easily had a dialogue box of something like, oh, well, this would be disrespectful to the kami. We cannot touch this.
Apparently, in Ghost of Tsushima, at least from what I know from this video, you cannot destroy the shrines in that
Ghost
game.
of Tsushima was lauded as being very, very a very good depiction. I mean, obviously, it's not completely historically accurate, but it's much more grounded in history.
Yeah.
And obviously, Assassin's Creed previously touted that it was much more historically accurate. There's a lot of debate about the new game. That's more sort of Wajan stuff that I can't really comment on. Ghost of Yote seems to also be like Tsushima in that it's more based on history, but from what I can tell, there is going to be a lot of things that are not historically accurate. For a story, for fantasy, when you're writing a piece of entertainment media, there are going to be corners cut or things that you change because it's not a documentary.
And even a documentary, you can cut corners, so...
Yes, there's things that are done for the sake of dramatic license. It varies from person to person how acceptable you find that. I think I wrote about. I think this was the term I used in my journal article, but I talk about Legends Arceus. In fantasy games, you have what I call rates of material reinterpreting in games. So things like Genshin or Legends Arceus or Pokemon in general. When you talk about how Pokemon uses a culture, they mix different elements to create something new. You have this higher level of material reinterpretation that occurs to create a new design. So it's not necessarily, it's based on something or inspired by something. It's not necessarily 100% pointing to one specific origin. So that makes things a little bit more confusing when you have to pick apart these designs. For example, the generation before Sinnoh, which is the Hokkaido region in Pokemon, you have Hoenn, which is mainly based on Kyushu, but also Kyushu has a lot of historical links with Okinawa, and there's a lot of Ryukyuan and Okinawan elements in those games. And the legendary trio in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, we have Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, and the three of them, they have different. They have both elements which are biblical. You have elements from Ryukyuan culture as well that combine to make these new Pokemon, these new concepts. So there's kind of a lot of Pokemon don't just draw from one place. Genshin is more. This region is more, it draws more specifically from Ainu culture, but also there's still that mix of Wajan in there. And you can view that as a consequence of colonization and assimilation. You can also partially view it as well. Concerning, obviously, Hokkaido, you have both influences from the north with Russia, contemporary influence. You have Russians, you have the Japanese, you have the Chinese. I mean, especially you had in Sakhalin, the Chinese for a while had an influence. They called it Kuyedao, Sakhalin Island, or Karafuto as the Japanese called it. But historically, the Japanese, the Yamato Japanese, and the Emishi, and later the Ainu, the most cultural contact and exchange that occurred was probably between the Ainu and the Yamato Japanese. And of course you also have other cultural contact as well with things like the Nivk and Wilta people who lived in Sakhalin. They had cultural contact with the Ainu. But I mean, when you talk about what's the most prominent, it would probably be, at least today.
Here we go. Here's our ceremonial site. Here it is. I'm gonna go quickly. And they're all just look like Japanese people, and this does not look. Oh, hey, at least I can't climb it. I guess that's good. We'll see how the hell I get this thing. But
Shuri ceremonial site.
This does not look Ainu at all.
Well, it doesn't look Japanese either.
It doesn't look Japanese. It just looks Celtic vaguely.
It's just a sort of fantasy religious site. I mean, the one thing it does sort of remind me of is there's actually this monument in Nemuro, which is, or Cape. Oh, what is it? Cape. Oh, I forget the name. But where Nemuro is, which is very close to where the Kuril Islands are, the very east of Hokkaido, in the east of Japanese territory. And there's this big monument to the return of the Kuril Islands, because obviously Japan has a territorial dispute with Russia. And it's this big, it's made of metal, but it's this giant arch structure that arches around, and there's a flame underneath. And when I see this structure here, it just sort of reminds me of the big rusted metal arch that I saw in Nemuro, which was for the return of the northern territories, Japan calls them, which they believe are illegally occupied by, well, what was the Soviet Union and is now the Russian Federation. But yeah, I mean, in terms of religious influence, this isn't...
Alright, here we go. Here we go. Let's learn more about their quote-unquote culture that they are quote-unquote taking from Ainu people. Let's see. I asked...
talk about offerings. You know, you give offerings at altars during ceremonies when you...
Mata just, Wait, Mata apparently feels Wait. Oh, no, we just got blocked from... We just got... Oh, God, we now gotta offer all these perches. Okay. Oh, it's got some Hydroculi. Cool. But of course they're in a bunch of Rift Hounds. Gonna take that. Alright, let's see where these perches are. Yeah, this is definitely...
I mean, if you talk about Ainu structures in terms of rituals, I mean, natural land formations. It's the same in actually a lot of Shinto and also in Okinawa as well, with the Okinawan ancestor worship. A lot of sacred areas obviously are sort of special rock formations or other interesting pieces of geography. You know, there's a lot of sacred spaces which are tied to the geography of the land. Things like rivers, you know, rivers were viewed as sacred. You wouldn't just do anything in a river originally in Ainu culture. Like, for example, washing clothes. You wouldn't just do that in a river. There was a place you would go to do that specifically. I think I remember reading people would usually travel into the mountains and wash in a sort of mountain stream instead of
and apparently this is here's a statue of this is what the Thunderbird apparently looks like. Cool. Okay, I guess I gotta beat this guy's up. So apparently that's what the Thunderbird looks like. Okay.
Yeah, well...
Nah, that's not...
The statues, I mean, it's just a statue. I mean, there's no.
It's not connected. I mean, they don't make any stone statues, right?
I mean, nowadays you have a lot of wood sculpture, but initially, I mean, you see Ainu patterns are very abstract, and well, at least traditionally, initially, you wouldn't carve living things because there was a taboo against that. And I think there was.
So it's offensive in that way too. Cool.
Well, I mean, nowadays it's not an issue.
Oh.
People, all the time, Ainu people carve animals. I mean, bears. You know, the very famous touristy item from Hokkaido, a bear holding a salmon in its mouth. Initially was, I mean, nowadays also you get Wajan people making them mass-produced, but Ainu people initially carved them as tourist items, and the story I heard when I asked was, you know, they needed a way to make a living, and part of that was carving, so people petitioned the Kamui to change the rules about depicting living things, and, you know, they came to an agreement, and now people carve living things all the time. If you go to the Kaneto Kawamura Ainu Museum in Asahikawa, there's a huge display of carved bears. You know, there's a famous Ainu artist, Miki Tsunazawa, who designed the Ainu flag, but he also did a lot of wood carvings of bears and fish, other things.
Oh, I thought for a second they were going to be respectful and didn't allow me to climb this, but nope, I can climb it. I can climb it. I can climb their ritual site. I can climb literally everything in Genshin, so specific dungeons. So, all right, where are these?
I mean, I saw back there. I think there was an NPC called Kito.
Okay.
And there was another called Kina. Kito is a kind of they're both plants that were used by Ainu people. Kito is a kind of leek.
I guess we can chat with them and see if they have anything to say, or unless they're all eerie ghost people. Onkami.
And then Kina. Onkami is a kind of a ceremony, like a prayer. I mean, in Japanese you have ogamu or ogami. In
the wolf, right? Well,
Ainu you have onkamui when you pray to the akamui. And again, though, that's another thing that people think is related. Onkamui and ogami could be related in some fashion, same as kami and kamui. But again, it's hard to know which came first or who influenced who. It potentially could be. Oh yeah, here we have Kito and Kina.
All right, here we go.
Kina is a kind of a medicinal sort of grass.
To protect.
So they're both types of food.
To protect the great Thunderbird created the great sea of fog, such that even the darkness would lose its way. He would come enter the island. I'm guessing this is completely foreign. Is there any justification for why there's fog in certain parts of Hokkaido?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, it's got to do with the shapes. It's super weird. Alright, well that was some at least a little lore, but now we gotta get back to finding these perches. I thought we'd be quick and done with this quest quickly, but nope. It's a world quest, so it's gonna take one. We got so much stuff to talk about, and and I know you gotta go soon, but I guess I'll complete. I guess if my people are still.
I can probably stay for a little while longer, but yeah. I mean, to be honest, we did sort of have a little hiccup at the start, so we started a little bit late. I've got a little bit of leeway. Sorry.
I thought your friends are coming in 12 minutes.
No, I have things to do after 12, but I can put it off for a little bit. Usually what I do on a Sunday, first of all, is I've got my shrine to go to. I need to have lunch as well before I go out, but
yeah.
No, I can push it back. Don't worry. I'm like maybe I can do probably maybe 12:15. And then I will have to.
Then you have to go.
I will have to disappear, but.
All right. Well, that's. Oh, this is Mount Kana. Okay. Well, now that this is all down to, I feel like we're probably towards the end of the first act. But If not, I will continue. If my people are still down to stay, I will continue streaming. I think we got... Well, I'm guessing there will be something interesting. Because I do want to finish this here, because I think you'll come back for the last act of this quest. Which I'm sure...
It looks like we have 6 people watching, which is quite good.
Yeah, it's good. No one's chatting. I mean, my friend is DMing me. Just telling me that you're not echoing, so that's good. But
I don't know how many takers I got through my socials, because I haven't really had any
I think I don't know, but this is more than usual for me.
I mean, it's okay. So there's probably what's happened is people decided to, instead of liking the tweet, they just were curious and pressed the button and came to view. I've had that a couple of times where I've tweeted out something. Oh, I'm going to this thing or whatever. I'm talking at this thing, and no one will like it. But then we'll still get people coming because I don't know. Maybe people they don't want to like it because they don't want to give an endorsement to something they don't know how it's going to turn out yet. But presumably, yeah. If this is more than what you usually have, then I'm guessing some people came from my socials.
No one's in the. I need to find where the hell these perches are. It's they usually would put a marker on where the perches are. I guess I need to first find these feathers. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna need to find the feathers.
Well, I saw a Mitsudomoi symbol there on one of those little statues, which is a Japanese thing.
Oh no.
That's not an Ainu symbol. Although actually I've seen Ainu clothes that had the Mitsudomoi symbol on it, and I actually asked when I spent a day with this Ainu very accomplished Ainu artisan called Sanae Ogawa, and I asked her about the Mitsudomoi symbol on some of the clothing. According to her, like there was a lot of crossover between Japan and people that lived in Hokkaido, and you would get people going over for trade and whatever, because there was a lot of trade that happened. People just brought the symbol back, and then people started embroidering it into Ainu clothing.
So it's more okay. It's more okay, I guess.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it on Ainu clothing, and when I asked about it, I was just told, well, it's just that people saw a pattern and they liked it, and they decided to put it on their clothes. So it just sort of came over via cultural osmosis.
Alright, I'm still trying to find where these perches are. Flareon, if you... I'm sure she's hasn't played this quest before. She probably forgot everything about this quest. I mean, I can quickly go to a guide if I need to, but you gotta go soon, so... to find where I'm gonna go to the guy and find where these perches. Okay. Tsurumi Island Quest, because aspiration is okay. Good. Quest day 1. Day 1. Alright, let's see where we are in this... How far we are in this quest. Oh, wow, this is... We're only... Wow. Wow. Okay, this is a... We got a ways to go in this quest. Holy shit. But you gotta go. Okay. I guess it's just gonna take. It just takes time to find all the perches. Yeah, it takes a very. We gotta look through the whole island, and then once you find the perches, it's still 13 more minutes in the quest. Okay, got it. It's just finding these perches. Okay. I guess we're just gonna find these... World quests are very much about exploration, rather than just story, so... Mileage varies on how quickly you can get this done. But I guess we can just look around the island and at least see how it looks. There, okay, we got something big, blatantly Japanese here, cool. Guess I'm just gonna have to look through this island and see where to... go. I saw it. Yeah, it's just find your way through the mist and make an offering to the perches. Okay. Let's see. Alright. Oh. To actually play the game now. Now we're on top of the thing. Okay, let's actually see where they went. Let's see where they went, though. Here. Let's see where the first perch is.
不要违法。还有什么
Okay,
需
they
要
are.
叮嘱的吗？
If I could only find where
Oh,
they
对
are
了，
on the island.
不要违法。
They're going. Okay, they're going towards the mist. I guess that's okay. Yeah. I'm getting him a DM from Flair. Okay, yeah, so we are supposed to go to the foggy areas. Got it. That's where we're going to. Okay. That's where we're going. Got it. Okay. That's where we're going. Where are... Okay. I guess, do you have any other words of wisdom about any of this so far as I make my way to these foggy areas?
I mean, I've not seen very much else that I feel that I can comment on. We've already kind of talked about the environment itself. I mean, it vaguely looks like Hokkaido. I mean, in the south, you sort of have... That's supposed to be the Oshima Peninsula, or maybe even the north part of Aomori, and then it's vaguely Hokkaido-shaped. You can see the sort of area where they've been inspired by the bottom section of the Kuril Islands and the top. It's got a very vague Hokkaido shape. I suppose in that department, Pokemon would be more accurate. I mean, in general, Pokemon follows topography a lot, or they did, not so much anymore, but they did follow topography a lot more closely back when they did regions based on Japan.
Well, damn, man, you can get stranded in the fog still. Got it. So, oh, land, oh. I had to go to the, okay, so where? Here. So we made it to one of the, okay, so first let's go to this, let's, okay, so that's the land, let's get to the warning stone. Come on, let me get the teleport point. Okay, good. That helps. And then this is gonna help me light the way, it seems. I'm guessing, also still... What? Do I need a thunder person? The up the thing, you need thunder, got it, okay. Gotta find more of those landmarks. Okay. Okay, this looks like another landmark. When did you start adopting Shinto?
Me? Oh, well, I moved to Japan, and then in late 2023, I was at a shrine. I went to sort of... It was a nice space. I kind of felt like I needed some guidance, and up until that point, I mean, I was raised a Catholic in a Muslim country. You know, it still factors into my values somewhat, but I don't consider myself Catholic anymore. But I felt, I don't know. Sometimes I say, like, I feel like something touched my soul, but I go to the same shrine every week now.
What was the shrine? Maybe I've seen a few of the shrines in Osaka, so
No, it's just a small neighborhood shrine called Samuhara Shrine. It's uptown, and it enshrines three gods, the three gods of creation in Shinto that first appeared when the world was created. I mean, I still consider myself to be a monist or a monotheist, I suppose. I only believe in the one god. According to you read the old Shinto text, well, the Japanese national epics was the very first god that came into existence, from which all the other gods came. And there was a time in Japan when, especially after coming into contact with Portugal and the UK and America and other countries that believed in one god, there were Shinto scholars that asserted that, well, Shinto is just it's a monotheist religion because we have Amenomi no Kunushi no Kami, the very first god at the center of creation. And from that, you can interpret that everything else is just just came from that as a bunshin. It's divided from that one spirit. So, I don't think that's particularly. I mean, not many people worship those gods anyway these days because they're abstract. Most Shinto, the popular Shinto gods, like Inari and all these other, they have, an image, a face to put to them, whereas the Zoka Sanshin, the first three gods, they get like one line. They appeared, and then they hid themselves.
It's interesting that there's a shrine that goes to that, because I mean, like, Chichibu, the wolf shrine, also has Izanami and Izanagi, and I know that's a little less. I know it's less. That's still a big deal, but.
Well, Izanami and Izanagi are still quite popular. I mean, if you go to Mie Prefecture to the Meoto Iwa or the Wedded Rocks, Izanami and Izanagi are enshrined there. And, because they're a couple, they're popular to pray to for marriage or for love or to have a good relationship. And, and there's depictions of Izanami and Izanagi. Like, there's an image of them. But, the more earlier gods that appeared, there's no... I mean, there is depictions of them, but they're not really.
Well, no. The whole point, from what I know from either from a Japanese young, I don't think it was a kawaii. Oh no! Wait, do I have to find these feathers? I have to find the feathers out. Okay. Is that they didn't really look like anything? They were like one-dimensional, from what I know, and that was sort of like the nothingness turning into somethingness is what I remember from reading something that I use.
It's just like when you ask someone what is God, God, Allah, Hashem. There's no figure. It's just an abstract. There's not supposed to be any sort of image represent. I mean, although in Christianity you have people drawing God as a sort of old guy with a big beard, but initially God doesn't have a figure, and in a similar way.
In Judaism, yeah, there's no figure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's the same as that. These initial gods, it just, they appeared, they came into existence, and then they hid themselves. They hid their form. So they're formless.
So, I mean, like Brahman
really,
also.
And also, because it's sort of viewed that they didn't really do anything. It's just sort of, well, they started the creation process, but when it comes to Shinto today, people pray to the gods for good luck in exams or, what have you. It's gods that play a more active role in life. And to most people, these gods that created the world long, long ago, they already did what they came into existence to do, and they don't really do anything now. So there's no point in worshipping these gods because they don't really have any sort of influence on modern everyday life. as it were. But that's how a lot of people see it. Not everyone. I mean, in saying that, it's a small shrine, but it gets quite busy, and you know, I go and pay my respects every week, and every morning I get up and I pray to my Kamidana at home, which enshrines the same deity that you get your Shinsatsu from the shrine, and I have a little miniature wooden shrine which houses it. I have my offerings right. Sake. But no, I think when I first went to the shrine, I think the lady was quite surprised that as a foreigner, wanted to build a kamidana. But I'm definitely one of the regulars. I mean, the lady across the street who runs a restaurant, she knows me very well. I go in there to have lunch usually after I attend. Although I haven't seen her recently. She was closed at New Year. Although today I'm probably just gonna have lunch at home because I have things to eat in the house.
Okay.
It's. Oh, we've come across a
what?
Whatever this is. I don't know.
Oh, these are like the these are like bokoblins in Zelda, basically. But they're also the natives of a civilization scorned by God and all turned to monsters. So you actually shouldn't feel good about killing them. So there's that. That's what that is. These are like the normal enemies, just in all the regions, not meant to be. I know. So, yeah. I'm just trying to find this feather. The thing that is not really related to Ainu stuff. Where's this feather? Clearly the feather is here somewhere. Is it on top of the building? Oh, yeah, I was right. The feather isn't on top. Is indeed on top of the building. Okay. So, what? But I was, yeah. I mean, I can tell you the one time. There's the last feather. The one time I ever would strongly felt like I wanted to believe in a god, was when I was in Chichibu. Okay, gotta beat up these people first. But yeah, basically, I mean, I told you about my experience at the Chichibu Shrine personally, but at the old at the Mitsumine Shrine, I felt like I was staring directly at an equal. I mean, of course, I'd love to worship a wolf god. I mean, that's yeah, but it was.
I mean, I know you have an affinity for wolves.
I have, so that's exactly why. That's why you tell me I need to go back to that wolf bar next time I'm in Tokyo. Still a little furry for my taste, but I'd probably go. Alright, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good bit of fun.
Yeah.
It's a sort of novel. I think the guy just rents. I don't think it's his bar. I think he just rents it out for certain days.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Wait, were they not even 4? Did I not? Did I not even need them? I might need that Electroculus. I might need that Electroculus to get into this. Let's see. Usually how this stuff happens. Or no, it looks like it's... Wait, no. Yeah, I believe I'm gonna need this Electroculus to get it. Yep! Yep, I was right. And now there's more! Oh god, this little feather just really doesn't want to be touched. Can I catch this fucking feather now, please? Thank you. Alright. I guess we gotta go back to wait, oh yeah, because is, okay, so we can go quickly. At least we can, I think we've gotten at least one of the feathers. No, the perch, but the perch isn't right at the warding stone. So, I mean, why am I saying warding stone? That was from the frickin' Sarai quest. It should be around here. What is with the lack of the markers? Is it just because there is fog? Okay. Where is it? Okay, let's go back to the. Let's go back to the warding stone. Just teleport my brain. Okay. Nope, there's more. So I guess, is there any... It's 4 more minutes. Wait, this should actually, I think, yeah, this should be the perch. Should be where the perch and the feathers are. Yep, here's it. Touch the perch. Make an offering to the perch. And interesting, the tree grew feathers or feather-like leaves. Okay. Looks like we're done here as well. Wow, it's such a real adventurer can do, huh? I mean, other people did come here before, but none of them were as strong as you and Paimon. Are they? Yeah, they came to look for Marushiro. Yeah, Sumida must have... I doesn't get it, though. What are these Marushiro? We've heard their traditional instruments, but the people here years. Yep, they make sounds and stuff. It's hard for us to see in this fog. That's why we use the Marushiro to tell others where we are. Is there any instrument like that? If
No,
it's not the
I mean,
Marushiro?
I mean, the two kind of Ainu instruments, you have the mukuri, which is a Jew harp or a mouth harp, and then you have the tonkori, which is from Sakhalin, but that's just a stringed instrument. I don't think it has any sort of... There's no sort of instrument where you tell someone where you are with it.
Feels vaguely wolf-like in a sense. Actually, it's like a wolf howling to tell another one where it is, which I guess goes to that other little story that you told me about that's false.
Oh yes, the stories about the wolves in Hokkaido, and yeah, the sort of probably a Wajant myth perpetuated that there was an Ainu story about a wolf mating with a woman, and that's where Ainu people came from. And some books report that as an Ainu story. The two accounts, one of them is from a Western account that's quite old, which I haven't been able to read. The other one is from a... What's his name? His surname Sarashina, author called Sarashina, who did a lot of research supposedly into Ainu culture and the relation with the environment in Hokkaido. And one of his books, he writes about a story with a wolf, supposedly, but there's no citations in that book, so he doesn't say where it's from. He doesn't even say who. I mean, usually like some of the other books I have, which were written by Ainu people, like Kaino Shigeru, was a famous Ainu politician and activist, and who wrote a lot of books. And his books with Ainu tales, usually it says this was a tale recorded from this person who lived in this area, and it was recorded at this time in history. But this other book, which talks about the story with the wolf has nothing like that. So there's no way to verify its truth. And then it was picked up by that other author, Brett Walker, whose book about he had a book called The Conquest of Ainu Lands, which is pretty decent. I recommended it to people who, when I was talking about Ghost of Yote on Twitter, and I told people this is a book which it talks more specifically about this time period, so it might be of interest to people wanting to learn a bit more of the historical and cultural context. But the wolf story, yeah, I don't really. I need to look into it more. But I have not seen any Ainu stories. I have not.
Nonetheless, wolves are still great. No, wolves are still greatly revered in Ainu culture. Still.
Yeah, well, I mean, wolves in Hokkaido are extinct. There aren't any wolves left.
I'm very aware of that. Yeah.
I mean, as there, in the
wolves
same
were
that,
greatly revered. I mean,
in the same way that people had respect for other animals, people had respect for wolves. But I think one of the things that I remember from looking into the wolf story is, I mean, you have John Batchelor, who wrote a lot about Ainu culture, and I think it's important to recognize that he was a missionary first and foremost, and his other work was more amateurish because he wasn't an ethnologist. He was a missionary that lived among the Ainu. And a lot of his work was tainted by the fact that he was trying to get people to convert to Christianity. So I think a lot of his religious stuff has to be taken with a lot of skepticism because he tended to write about the one true God, which that's not a thing in Ainu culture, but he insisted it was. But he did write about this wolf story, and that he asked because he could speak Ainu very well, and he asked the people that he lived with, the Ainu chiefs that he was visiting, about the story, and they were adamant that there was no such story and that they didn't think of a wolf as a specific kind of totem animal whatsoever. So, in terms of historical evidence, there isn't really much grounding for this tale. I mean, different Ainu groups have their different stories about what kind of animal specifically they might be more connected to. I mean, like people that live near the coast maybe would feel more affinity to orcas, or whales, and then maybe people that live further inland. It ultimately it depended on that group's relationship with the environment and whether they lived by the ocean or by a river upstream. What kind of things were they coming in contact with, and what did they feel was an animal that deserved extra respect, because people who lived by the ocean would probably pay more attention to whales and orcas because they believe that, like Repun Kamui, who was an orca, I believe. Repun just means from the ocean, the far-off ocean, out, like over the sea. This Repun Kamui that's from the far ocean, was responsible for bringing them fish for them to eat. So, of course, it was important to have a special relationship with that Kamui in particular. Whereas other Kamui maybe wouldn't be so important to them in everyday life, because it depends on these groups' relationships with the environment around them.
Okay.
Yeah, the wolf. I mean, yeah, I still don't really know where's the truth and the lies behind this wolf story. But my current hypothesis.
Nonetheless, I'm sure the Ainu would like wolves to come back to Japan. I'm sure they'd like that. I'm sure they'd like it.
I mean, nowadays a lot of Ainu people are farmers, so it might actually be a disruptive influence.
Oh, damn.
But, I mean, there's, yeah. I mean, the whole initially people. I mean, wolves are very solitary creatures, and you wouldn't necessarily come across them. I'm sure people in the past did kill wolves when they became a threat to the village or the kotan. But mainly the wolves, the reason they died out is because they were killed by settlers who were farmers.
Yeah.
And they thought, and they were threatening their livestock. I mean, nowadays, yes, obviously there are Ainu people who are environment activists in the same way that Wajin are, and there's a lot of things to do with specifically fishing rights and being able to have a proper relationship with nature that doesn't take too much. In terms of wolves specifically, I don't know if I would need to probably ask some people I know what their thoughts are about that. But nowadays, historically, yeah, a lot of Ainu were forced into large-scale agriculture by Wajin. But nowadays, a lot of Ainu people, at least, where places I visit, there's a lot of people who are involved in the agricultural sector, and even though the idea might be nice to have wolves come back, seeing as in the culture they played they had a role. There's a lot of other modern considerations nowadays. It might be that they would just cause more issues to people. Even still now, people still, you have respect for other animals like bears, but even still, bears are a worry, and, you have people that have... you have a little bit of gun ownership in Japan, and then if you're out and you need a way to defend yourself from a bear... I know someone has a crossbow.
I thought guns are illegal in Japan to have.
No, you can get guns. It's just incredibly difficult to get a gun.
Compared to the United States.
Yeah, it's like how people say, oh, guns are banned in the UK. Well, no, that's not entirely true, because you can get guns, and in the UK, there are many farmers in the UK that have guns, because there are certain exceptions. And you can get guns in Japan, but you have to fulfill very specific criteria, and there's a lot of other specific rules about gun training, where you store your ammo, but yeah, it's like, even though the shogunate confiscated weapons, even like nowadays, you can get swords. I don't know the specifics, but if I wanted a katana, I could go out and get a katana. Whereas in the UK, not possible. You need a special license just to import one for cultural appreciation. But I've walked past stores in Osaka and elsewhere in Japan where they have throwing stars and they have katanas. There are places to get guns, but yeah, they're very, very, very rare, but they're not completely banned.
All right, let's look at this. So you gotta go soon. When we're done talking to you, then you can go. But I gotta complete the rest of this quest. But for this first day, and then we'll be back, and then I'll do the second and third on my own, and then whenever you're available again, we'll do the last day. Grandma, so Souls of the Lost of the Fog. I'm guessing also not. There's no Souls of the Lost that are found in the fog. Is there any significance to fog, or just it was a thing and they just yeah, it's there? Is there anything related to the fog? I'm trying to find anything.
Personally, I don't specifically know, but there could be. I would have to look into that. But at least as far as I know, there isn't. But again, all right. There could be. It could be something I'm not aware of, which is quite likely the case.
All right, and all right. Well, thank you very much, Kaihatsu, for joining at least this first part of the stream. See how long my viewers would like to stay. I will complete the rest of this on my own, even afterwards. But then
thank you very much for having me on.
But yeah, again, this was obvious. This was very this was awesome. Definitely like to do some clipping of this, and then get some good moments. I don't know how much extra editing needs to be done, but yeah, I think this was great. From what you've seen right now, what is your Ainu, I guess, compared to Pokemon Legends Arceus? How much better is this, or I guess if you're rating of 1 to 10 of Ainu accuracy, I guess the rating you give to Legends Arceus and the rating you give to this.
It's difficult to say because both of these games approach things in a sort of different way, and Genshin is much more based in fantasy, but at the same time there is more obvious, I would say, Ainu elements, because you have Ainu words and references to things like that, whereas Legends Arceus, Pokemon sort of hides everything under its own layer of abstraction. But then you also have the more outward colonial aspect of the nature of Legends Arceus. So
Yeah, so far these characters haven't said, again, they're all likely ghosts, but none of these characters said, oh, oh, please teach us. We haven't gotten that at least yet.
No, I think it's difficult to directly compare them because they approach things differently, although I would say in some respects Genshin is, again, it's not a high bar, so it's like, we're talking very small degrees of difference, but I would say Genshin probably marginally better in some ways than Legends Arceus. I think the problem with Legends Arceus specifically is that it takes place in the colonial period, and I think dealing with that colonial dynamic does not do it any favors. Whereas,
yeah, this is right before the colonial. This is right before that.
Genshin doesn't have that. I mean, in the Edo period, you had increasing exploitation of Ainu people, but Genshin doesn't deal with that because it's obviously its own sort of. It's much more clearly its own fantasy realm. Whereas with Pokemon, you still have very obvious traces of historical influence, which complicates.
And again, I can tell you basically what happens during the story of this Archon quest is the civil war that leads to the Bakumatsu. Like, it basically happens. It happens in a very fantasy-like way, but it happens. So, again, in many ways, Inazuma pretty historically accurate. They even, like, changed the position of a way someone held a sword to be accurate. So, at least on the Wajen side, but yeah, obviously not that good with the Ainu, but still marginally better.
I think for a lot of people, I mean, Wajen culture is more easily accessible, and it's more widely known and understood, and it's easier to research. I think a lot of Ainu stuff is still kind of... A lot of it's very academic and esoteric, or hidden away in very old books. You'd have to sort of trudge around a Sapporo bookshop like I did on my last trip to Hokkaido to find, books of interest. And there are organizations like near Lake Akan. They have a company or a sort of consultancy sort of.
Right. You told us about that. You told me about that during the interview as well.
But yeah. I don't really know how well known these things are. I think that needs to be known more. There are people that can do consultancy. There's people that can do designs.
I'm gonna guess no Ainu people were consulted for this.
Well, as far as I'm aware, no. I mean, I know Ainu people that do consultancy work. There's a guy Kenji who does work with the Ainu language. Who, he does he's quite busy with work to do with the Ainu language. But a lot of it is still to do with museums and academia and documentaries. And when it comes to fantasy or when it comes to entertainment media, there isn't as much. I mean, there was a movie that came out last year called Shisam, which is a period drama about a samurai who goes to, quote unquote, goes native. He goes to live with an Ainu kotan. And they had consultancy people working on that. Not anyone that I recognized immediately, but there's some people I know that worked on the Golden Kamuy movie.
You mean the anime?
No, there's a movie as well.
Wait, there's a movie?
There's a live-action movie.
Oh. Oh, so it's specifically for the live-action movie, you're saying?
Yeah, I believe it was on Netflix. I mean, I haven't seen it. When I was up in Hokkaido, someone gave me a copy of the first edition of Golden Kamuy, and I'm not really a manga person. I didn't really get the hype, but I understand for a lot of people, it's there's a lot of people that are very heavily invested in the series and its characters.
I mean, I love it. I love it. So, I mean, it got that series got me very interested in. I mean, actually, I remember I heard about Golden. I think it was actually Gaijin Goomba. I think briefly mentions Golden Kamuy when he was talking about Legends Arceus. So in it's one of his videos, and I went down that track. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did some stuff with him about Legends Arceus, but I think, yeah, I mean, I recognize Ainu, when it comes to Golden Kamuy, probably compared to anything else, has done the most to promote popular interest in Ainu culture. I mean, you have things like the Ainu Museum, but when you go up, there's always some kind of tie-in with Golden Kamuy to try and draw in tourists, because people understand that that's played a huge role because of its popularity, and a lot of the Ainu people that I've spoken to that make a living off of selling things to tourists have said that Golden Kamuy has done a lot. They had a lot of people coming who specifically were interested in Golden Kamuy, and I forget the Japanese phrase, but there's a phrase which it sort of translates as visiting a holy site, but it's used to mean someone who visits a place that was inspired in anime or a video game or something.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, I mean that's why I wanted to, when I reached my original Japan trip when I had Hokkaido, like I wanted to go to Abashiri and I wanted to see Abashiri Prison. Because like that's a big plot point of going to Kami's Abashiri Prison. So
I've heard. Yeah, I visited Abashiri Prison last August. It was quite interesting. It was quite amusing. There was a story about one of the prisoners who had escaped something like half a dozen times from various prisons in Japan. And there was a story of him. He managed to melt through the bars of his prison cell by gradually applying miso soup to rust the prison bars.
Wow.
And he escapes that way.
that's
So, yeah, it was a very funny story. If you go to the Abashiri prison, there's a whole bit of information about him. That was quite amusing to read about all the different times how he managed to escape prison. But yeah, it looked like it would have been a hellish place to be imprisoned in the winter because up there it's very cold.
Obviously.
The cells were not very nice. But they also have a section dedicated to modern Japanese prisons, and there's a neighboring prison today in Abashiri. I think it's in Abashiri, but there's one nearby, and they have a little section dedicated to what modern Japanese correctional facilities are like, and you get a little glimpse into.
yeah,
so
with their very high, obviously, prosecution rates. Because
there's high conviction rates.
that's what I mean. Guide conviction. I meant conviction. Yeah, is that the prosecutor always wins?
Yeah, they generally only take cases they know that they will win, which is why the conviction rate is so high. But then that also leaves issues where people say that certain crimes are unaddressed in Japan because they don't get prosecuted, because they don't think they have a case. Happens a lot with sexual harassment still.
Oh, of course, that makes sense.
Which is why people talk about conviction rates it's because they don't get picked up and they don't go to court because people don't get charged.
But isn't there still enough bullshit convictions that you can win?
I mean, I know there's been issues with people who have been wrongfully convicted, and there was a guy who was on death row for a long time before he was acquitted. And the thing about death row in Japan is that they don't tell you until they come to get you to do it. There's no last meal or anything like there is elsewhere in the world. It's, you wake up every day not knowing if they're gonna come and say it's time.
But you know you're on death. But you know you're on death row.
You know you're on death row. You just don't know when they're gonna come because there's no notice. It's not like I mean, as far as I know, in America you get some kind of last meal and last words, but they don't. They just in Japan, you wake up and maybe that day they'll come and say it's time, and you'll get a little bit of time with some kind of chaplain or Buddhist monk or priest. And then there's an anteroom where, depending on your religion, they have a little flip around Buddhist statue of Kanon, the goddess of the.
We love us some Kanon here, yeah.
Or a crucifix. And it's like a rotational thing depending on your denomination. They'll just flip it around to the other side. And then after that, there's a curtain, and you go through, and that's where they have a trap door, and they put the noose around your neck. And then in the next room they have 3 people who press a button simultaneously, so no one knows which button is the one that opens the trap door. But yeah, death by hanging. It's a very, very clinical process.
I guess at least it's not a firing squad, but obviously, yeah, it's legal. I guess what is the rate for for the death penalty? I know you really have to go. Like this, we're going off completely off topic.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, in terms of, I don't know. I mean, people who get convicted to death, sentenced to death, they often spend a long time on death row. Like the sarin gas attack that happened in the 90s in the Tokyo subway with the Aum Shinrikyo cult. A lot of there was people on death row who only got they only got hung a couple years ago. And they spent something like 20 years on death row waiting to be. It takes quite a long time for it to go through. In terms of how many convictions there are for death row, I don't actually know. I mean, I think that the death penalty in Japan is still pretty popular. I mean, back in the UK, they abolished the death penalty, but if you ask, there's still quite a high public support for reintroducing the death penalty.
I do. You're familiar with one of our? Are you familiar with the main UK door? I'm sure you've heard of the Mikado. You heard of Mikado?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying it's bad. I'm saying it's bad. Actually, it's bad. It's not good. It's a very bad depiction of Japan. But I'm like, I remember that sort of like was I guess you could say it was a critique of the death penalty, using Japan to critique the British death penalty when it was still a thing. I feel like that's what it was sort of like how Shakespeare would use other countries to critique the Queen without making it set in the UK. But yeah, just I guess we're dead. Oh shit. Well, I think probably good for you to go now.
Yeah, I suppose I better take my leave.
You should take your leave and pray. I very much for you. You gotta go pray. You gotta go eat. So.
Yeah.
But this was great chat, and hopefully we'll have you on again to finish off this quest whenever we can get you back on. To see if that.
I'm a very busy person recently, but hopefully.
I'm in no rush to complete this. So whenever.
Well, I'm hopefully in the next by the time maybe 2 months from now, I should be much less busy than I am at the moment. Obviously, I have this journal article to finish editing and other such things, but but thank you very much for having me again. And I hope this was enjoyable for you and the viewers alike.
I had a blast. So.
Great.
All right.
Well, I will head off, but thank you again for having me. Goodbye.
All right. Goodbye. All right. All right. Now it's just us. I'll let you know. Let me let you know how. Okay, what's the time? It's 7:30. Okay, I need to actually check. How much of this quest do you need to see the rest? I think I guess I'll play this at my own. Do you want me to just play this at my own leisure? Play this at my own leisure now, or is anything of note? What are you guys feeling? What are you guys feeling? Anyone still here? Let me check. When is that restaurant? I at least want to. I mean I can stream the. Corianders. Close that. Oh shit! It closes at 9. I at least gotta. I'm gonna be right back and at least make an order. I should probably. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost. You got it.
我曾经考虑过要不要在办公室里养宠物，但小猫小狗在不见阳光的地方生活太可怜了，还是算了吧。
I'm in no rush.
“如果看到我背后粘着美露心画的贴纸，帮我揭掉吧。” 违法。还有什么需要叮嘱的吗？哦，对了，不要违法。我曾经考虑过要不要在办公室里养宠物，但小猫小狗在不见阳光的地方生活太可怜了，还是算了吧。
Yeah, All right, let's end this stream here. I'm gonna play the rest at my own leisure. I think that's good. So either way, thank you everyone for joining us.